Josh is on the cutting edge of real news. And Josh, I'm delighted to have you with us today on Infowars. You had some great perspectives on what's going on regarding Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the witch hunt over Russia. Josh, thanks for joining us here today.
Well, Roger, thank you for having me. And before we get started, I'd like to congratulate you on your phenomenal book and your upcoming documentary premiere.
Well, thank you very much. So what's your assessment? All of Washington today seems to be a Twitter about Jeff Sessions and this move to recuse himself from anything Russian. I don't buy the current narrative that the Democrats and the media are seeking the removal of the Attorney General because of some what appears to be innocent contact with the Russian ambassador. What's behind the scenes here? What's really going on?
Well, the Russian issue is one of the great wedges, I think, of the Trump era, at least the early segment of his presidency. We see that Jeff Sessions is one of five, as I call the horsemen of the anti-globalist coalition. We have Sessions, Bannon, Miller, Trump, and formerly Flynn. And what we're seeing here now is the Democrats attempting to oust yet another member of this Confederate to move forward what I believe is the Democrats' cornerstone platform, which is open borders. Jeff Sessions has been on the front lines against illegal immigration and also immigration associated with H-1B visas. He's fought against Mark Zuckerberg's lobbying group Forward.us, and he's also fought Soros, who's attempted to decimate our southern borders. To me, in my purview, this is the root cause of the new political witch hunt against Jeff Sessions.
You know, it's interesting if we just had to contend with liberal Democrats and other globalists, but my fear here is there's a lot of rhinos in the mix. There are a lot of establishment Republicans who never supported Donald Trump, who are unhappy with his presidency, who are nonetheless trying to infiltrate the administration. You're upset about leaks in the White House? This is really simple. Don't hire people who aren't loyal to you, and you'll have no leaks. You know, one of Stone's oldest rules: go to bed with dogs, wake up with fleas. Seems to me precisely what has happened. Len Kolodny said it in an earlier segment. Who will be the John Dean of the Trump administration? Is it Reince Priebus? Perhaps we'll find out. But I see the rhinos, the Koch brothers, and other bad actors here in the establishment wing of the Republican Party trying to move this narrative against Jeff Sessions, against Steve Bannon, against Steve Miller, and against others like General Flynn, who are indeed, I think, the key players in the effort to restore this country to greatness, reverse the decline of America, and, above all, seal our borders.
Roger, you're correct. There are a number of rhinos that have been pushing the narrative alongside the Democrats that what Jeff Sessions did wrong, collaborating in a very short meeting with Ambassador Kislyak. We have Jason Chaffetz, who said that he wanted Sessions to offer further clarity on his testimony. We had Majority Leader Kevin McCartney, who said that he too would like to see more clarity and that Sessions ought to recuse himself from any probes concerning the Russians. And then, of course, to no one's surprise, we have members of the deep state, John McLaughlin, who was the former acting head of the CIA, saying that Kislyak was, quote, an experienced information collector, insinuating that a meeting taking place between Jeff Sessions and him may have been an opportunity to spy.
Well, that's interesting. Jeff Sessions was, of course, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. A meeting between the senator and the Russian ambassador would not in any way be illegal or improper. The same case could be made in the Flynn matter. A phone call between General Flynn and the Russian ambassador would be well within General Flynn's job description. And in fact, the purpose of the call, as reported by the New York Times, was to arrange a telephone conversation between our president and the Russian president. Nothing inappropriate about that. So I am perplexed as to why General Flynn would mislead the vice president, if that has been reported accurately, and why Senator Sessions, who I think is a great man and a great attorney general, with the exception of his position on marijuana, because you can't be for states' rights in the states that have legalized medicinal marijuana, but not be for states' rights in the states that have legalized recreational marijuana. Doesn't work that way. But putting that issue aside, they want to remove Sessions because he is the strong right arm of Donald Trump. They want to remove Sessions because he has been the leader in the Congress to close our borders against terrorists and other criminals who would come here and don't mean us well, who mean us harm. I have said repeatedly that the real danger to this administration is not liberal Democrats. It's establishment Republicans. Better a snake in the grass than an asp in the bosom. Now, the other big brouhaha in Washington now appears to be Obamacare. So many in the establishment believed that the president would not follow through on his commitment to replace the Obama health care system with a better system that would cover more people at a lower cost based on free market principles. Yet, we have not yet seen the bill. Senator Rand Paul complaining that there's a game of keep away going on, that he can't seem to see the bill that is being considered. Now, I know your ear is very close to the ground. What's your assessment on Obamacare and where this is headed?
Well, there is a fissure right now that is created on Capitol Hill. We see the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party in the Senate, led by Cruz, Lee, and Rand. And then in the House, we had Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan Freedom Caucus. Just today, Rand Paul, who's been somewhat of a de facto leader on trying to get a conservative solution to the repeal and replacement of Obamacare, has said that the conservative members of that coalition are inclined to decline wanting to go forward with this plan that has been shrouded in secrecy. As you had alluded to just a moment ago, Rand Paul went on a hunt of his own, tried to obtain the bill in room H157 of the Capitol building and was denied access to reading the bill. He even brought a photocopy machine along with him just in case he was able to get a glimpse of it. So what I see occurring right now is somewhat of a storm brewing between the rhinos, the conservative wing of the party, and where Donald Trump plays out in this is going to more or less define him early on as either the deal-making president, as he has been a proponent of for quite some time throughout his campaign and through his presidency, or is he going to be able to come together with both of these parties and offer what many say is Obama light, which I think the base would be quite upset about. This is where Donald Trump solidifies himself early on legislatively as a deal maker.
Yeah, I would bring your attention to a terrific article published in the New York Post last week by Charles Gasparino, one of their business reporters, where he speculates about the administration's intention to move forward on their tax reform proposal. I am one who believes that if the president can revitalize our economy, can begin to show an increase in job opportunities, and show a more vibrant economy, that it would not only buy him the revenues to solve a number of our other problems, but would expand his political coalition, would move him an additional 10 points to have a governing coalition that is both intact, intense, and vibrant. Yet I have very deep concerns. The president's chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, is a liberal Democrat, a lifelong opponent of tax reduction, and he comes from Goldman Sachs. Now, I have put my faith in the president, And I don't deny that the folks from Goldman Sachs are enormously capable individuals, but I would like to know whether they intend to pursue the president's agenda, or are they going to pursue the agenda of the left wing of the Democratic Party and thus guarantee the continued decline of our economy and our nation? Tell me, Josh, what do you think?
Well, I think that the infrastructure bill is a very smart play by the president, not only because from a policy prescription standpoint, the country needs a infrastructure bill. Many of our roads and bridges are falling apart, but it offers an opportunity for President Trump to provide sweeteners to senators that might have issues with some provisions in either the Obamacare replacement and repeal act or in tax reform. So much like we saw in 2008 when Barack Obama and Harry Reid got together and offered the famous $100 million Cornhusker kickback to Senator Nielsen of Nebraska, we see here that the president has an opportunity to get tax reform and Obamacare repeal and replacement through using sweeteners embedded inside of this infrastructure bill. So I think it's possible. This is where the deal making is going to come into play. And I think in August is when we'll start to see real tax reform debates kicking off. And then in terms of Obamacare replacement and repeal, within Rand Paul had alluded to today that within the next 3 weeks, we're going to see the House begin to table a bill. And as he said today to the Washington Times, it's going to be up to the conservative wing of the Republican Party to either take it or leave it.
I think that's a good analysis. Look, Donald Trump may be the toughest negotiator I've ever met. It's easy to underestimate him. He has been underestimated from the beginning. In this sense, it reminds me a lot of Ronald Reagan, another president who was both very great and underestimated at every turn by his opponents throughout his political career. I agree with you that the infrastructure bill could be the greatest Christmas tree of all time in terms of providing opportunities to do some horse trading with key members of the House and the Senate to get them on board. I do have a concern that the infrastructure bill is going to incur debt beyond what is necessary. And I'm hopeful the administration will look at some more innovative and creative ways of financing a restructure and a revitalization of our bridges, our tunnels, our roads, our airports, and our public facilities. I do think through the use of insured bonds and other financial instruments, there could be a better way to do this, but it does fulfill one of the central tenets of Trumpism, which is it's time to reinvest in America. I also think this backs into the Russian question in an odd way. The president has a very difficult choice. He can incur debt in order to pay for more missiles and bombs and offensive weapons to use in a war in Syria, where, in all honesty, we have no friends. Assad is a dictator propped up by the Russians, contributing to Hamas and Hezbollah, funding them. And on the other side, you have ISIS propped up by the Saudis. So here's the conundrum for President Trump. Do we incur debt to restructure and revitalize our bridges, our tunnels, our highways, our schools, our hospitals, our airport facilities? Or do we borrow that money to pay for bombs to use in a expanded proxy war in Syria? Seems to me like the president has made his choice. He has no illusions about Vladimir Putin. He knows he's KGB. He knows he's a bad guy. He knows theirs is a rotten totalitarian system. But if Richard Nixon can negotiate strategic arms limitation with Brezhnev, then surely Donald Trump can negotiate peace over the question of Syria in the Middle East with Vladimir Putin.